Away from a view of U.S. exceptionalism. He examines this troubling trend in his new film, America.
How do you convince a great nation to author its own destruction? You start by telling a new story.
Because if you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
What President Obama's really saying is that the wealth and abundance of American life are not earned. They're stolen. Obama didn't create this movement. It created him.
Not God bless America, God damn America.
Incredible as it may seem, there are people in America who want a world without America.
On Friday night, D'Souza took to the Kelly file to explain why he saw this latest project as necessary.
When I came to America, I was stunned by the abundance of ordinary life. The rich guys live well everywhere, but I was struck by how good the ordinary fellow has it in America. And then I was also struck by the goodness and idealism of the American people. Even when they fall short, they always want to do better. And then I saw this sort of ferocious leftist critique of America. Over the years, I see this critique metastasize out of the campus, into Hollywood, into the media, and then now I think into the corridors of government. We'd call it the shaming of America, an attack on America. It's completely wrong-headed.
Okay, and Eric, that's exactly how he opens this movie, by piecing together all of these comments by progressives and those on the left who've taken shots at America. And then he proceeds in this movie to rebut all of those accusations. Do you think that's why, according to a new poll, fewer Americans say that America is the greatest nation on earth? Because the left has been apologizing, including our president, for all of the mistakes that she's made?
I think the reason why we saw that poll, I think the reason why a lot of Americans now feel we're not the powerhouse we used to be is because prices have gone up, our wages are going down, our middle class is getting squeezed. What Dinesh D'Souza has done, though, he's taken a lot of conservative talking points and put them and compiled them into a movie, and I think that's fantastic. One of the most interesting, I haven't seen the movie yet, but one of the most interesting clips that I've heard from the movie is when he outlines how President Obama and the Clintons have somehow a connection to Saul Alinsky, and they're really trying to fundamentally transform America into a more socialist government. The conservatives have been saying that for the better part of 6 years now, and then we're going to possibly end up with 8 years of Hillary Clinton. Boy, if you have a minute, this would be the movie. If you're a conservative, you want to kind of compile it all together and get succinct talking points, unlike this rant right now, that would be the place to do it.
And Kimberly, it's been called required material for any parent of a child. Make your kids watch this, because when they go off to college, they're going to get a very different picture. You know, you hear all these things, we hurt the Indians, we hurt the Native Americans, we did all these things, we wronged the African American community. A lot of apologizing. What Dinesh D'Souza does in this movie, he very factually lays out what actually happened here in a very honest way. A lot of kids should be watching this so they're armed with the facts when they go off to college.
Because they're not going to necessarily get it in school, that's for sure. Depending on where they go, chances are that they're not going to be equipped with the facts like the way that he lays it out, and he makes the case, and makes the case for America, for American exceptionalism. When you think about it, think about if America didn't exist. Okay, and we weren't in the picture, we weren't in the game, then you would have had fascism or communism dominating in Europe. What would we have now going forward if we didn't have America? Probably an America that looks very much like the way that the Obamas and the Clintons want to transform it, which is radically different. When you think about the values, the goals, the dreams, why all these people, millions and millions of people across the world, their big goal, they would love to come to this country for the opportunity, for the type of government that we have. But given the course and direction that we're going now, it's going to be a radically different America unless there is a course correction. And that's what people have to think about going forward for midterm elections, going forward in 2016.
Greg, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love Dinesh D'Souza?
I don't like to use the word love. I'm not big into movies like these. I like movies like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Maybe it's some Die Hard. So I guess I'm saying I don't go to movies to look for political messages. However, I do understand that in this day and age, it's not a bad thing, because so many of the mainstream movies have liberal assumptions built into them. So when people go to movies, they get the message without even knowing they're getting the message. So this is kind of like maybe the pendulum swinging, but it's not. It's like what Eric said. He's taking what people have said and he's putting it in one place, which is helpful. The argument here, though, is that the other side will say criticizing America actually makes you a better patriot, which I would agree if they actually were critiquing the right things. But often the things that the left critiques are the very things that made this country great, whether it's free markets or the entrepreneurial spirit. These are the things that make America great. But those are the things that people like Dyson doesn't like. And in fact, the left, in a sense, always champions things like enforced equality and punitive taxation. They're on the wrong side of everything, and they want us to join them, which is why films like this are necessary.
Juan, do you think Dinesh being from India gives him a bit more credibility as well? I mean, he came to this country, he's an immigrant of this country, but he has a very different take, and you can see him with Professor Dyson from Georgetown University that Greg just mentioned. Dyson saying, look, I love America too, it's just from a liberal perspective, we should be able to relentlessly critique her. That's the American spirit. Where Dinesh D'Souza says, as Greg points out, yeah, but get your facts straight, and that's why he made this movie, to actually get the facts straight where liberals get them wrong.
Well, I tell you, I'm very cynical about this movie. I think it's sort of playing directly to the lowest assumptions about conservatives. It's, oh, yeah, we're going to tell conservatives exactly what they want to hear. We're going to give them a movie, and they're going to run it. I just think, I'm a little bit like Greg. I don't go to movies for political sermons. And I noticed that in the polls right now, maybe Dinesh D'Souza is a smart guy, because the polls say that Republicans are the ones who are losing faith in the country fast. It's still a majority of Republicans who say, the country's great and all that. But if you look at the numbers over the last few years, it's Republicans who are buying off on that. And I think this is, again, just saying to that audience, oh, yeah, this is exactly what we've been telling you. And that business about, oh, you didn't build it, America built it. I mean, everybody knows that was a bunch of hooey, and that was said during the campaign.
The point is, the only people that will go to see a movie like this are people that already have heard these things.
Right.
I give D'Souza credit, Dinesh D'Souza, that's it. Yes, said it correctly, for making this film. However, the challenge is to make something for everybody else. You have to infect and infest pop culture. You have to get in there and get to the people who haven't heard any of these messages, and that's what the left is really good at doing. The left is very good at going after people on campuses and using humor to get at people.
But how does he get it play? I agree with you, but this is the only way he can go about doing it.
Yeah.
Because the mainstream media is not covering this. You've got Fox News, or you have independent filmmakers that try and pull it and aggregate it together in the hopes that it's going to reach the right people.
They're calling him the Michael Moore
Yeah.
of the right, which I think doesn't do him really any justice, because they're trying to say what you're saying, Greg, is, okay, he's just pigeonholed into this one certain area where if you like him, you'll see his movies.
Yeah.
If you don't, you won't. But isn't it important, Eric, that you watch these movies, even if you are on the right, so you can get educated with the facts, if you're at a barbecue and talking to a liberal, say, like this last weekend?
Good point.
No, and I'm going to agree with Greg here. In other words, who's ever going to watch those movies, they're already convinced.
Yeah.
You've already sold those people. But the point that you made, I'm not sure who made it, who said, make sure your kids watch it.
That was me.
That's the point. Get your kids out there. There's 3 college kids. I'm walking across, coming into the studio. 3 young ladies, college kids. They said, we love the 5. I said, where are you from? They're Connecticut. I go, wait a minute.
Where are they
young,
now?
You're young, you're from Connecticut, and you're in college, and you love the 5. This kind of show where you have open, honest dialogue, maybe that's what they need. Maybe we need the 5 product placement in, I don't know, some of the leftist movies, like Sesame Street movies.
No, you know what we need?
No.
You know what we need?
Eric, you had to go to Sesame Street movies of all of them.
Didn't the 3 of us get in trouble with Sesame Street?
We could. I could play Goofy. Right? But no, what we need is the 5 University.
Or Disney.
While you're talking, I want to ask you about this. Of course, over the weekend, in addition to Dinesh's movie, the immigration crisis, boiling over about the direction of our country. And Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson was trying to answer on whether or not the administration wants to deport these thousands of illegals that are pouring over the border. Here's his response.
Our message to those who come here illegally: our border is not open to illegal migration. We're looking at options, added flexibility to deal with the children in particular, but in a humanitarian and fair way.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, it sounds like a very careful response. Are they going to be deported or not?
There is a deportation proceeding that is commenced against illegal migrants, including children.
I'm trying to get an answer to, will most of them end up staying, in your judgment?
I think we need to find more efficient, effective ways to turn this tide around.
This is a huge crisis. The mayor of Murrieta, California, you saw that blow up at the town hall. He came out, he said on Thursday the administration hasn't even called him back. These were Department of Homeland Security buses. He never got the heads up that they would be dumping them in his district. In addition to this soundbite, the administration also came out and said, we don't consider these illegals to be dangerous. Yet there's reports of health issues, scabies, head lice, all these concerns swirling around this, and the administration's response is, yeah, we don't know if we're going to send them back. What do you say?
How could you know? Andre, they have to go through deportation.
What's the policy? Shouldn't they have a policy?
They have to go through deportation here. Yeah, there should be a policy. I mean, what's going on down there is really curious. I think it's a lot like what's been going on in Clive and Bundy's harm. I mean, you get people coming from all over and pretending that they belong. They're not even members of that community, and now they're trying to spark a crisis, a nationwide crisis, when you have a refugee crisis, a human tragedy taking place.
That's not fair. That's not fair to call these refugees. What are they running from? Juan? Are they running from some political war that's breaking out in their? No, they're running from a crappy economy, and they're trying to get a better
it's
economy.
More than that. Yes, the economy is part of it, but it's also that that the highest murder rate in the world. It's drug trade. It's
oppression. But that is not the true definition of refugee
let them have a deportation.
Jay Johnson 7 times was asked. 7 times was asked, what are you going to do with these kids? Couldn't answer it. Josh Earnest over the weekend also couldn't answer it. Today they come out and go, yeah, we're going to send most of them back because they're violating or they're breaking the law. I got news for you. What about the other million or so that come across the border? You're going to send them back too? They don't. The Obama administration is so fake on what they're doing with sending deportations.
They're so fake that they're enforcing a 2008 George Bush law that says those children are entitled to a deportation hearing before they're sent back. That's how fake they are, Eric.
We'll send them back then after.
What's going down at the border is it's President Obama's Berlin Wall moment. This is where he sees the border the way Ronald Reagan saw the Berlin Wall. It's a symbol of oppression. It's not a symbol of protection. It must be destroyed. And I'm waiting for him to say, tear down those borders. We have 140 million people who want to come here. Why is it? Because the world pretty much sucks and the United States doesn't. So President Obama's solution is to make our country worse, so they will be less likely to come.
How clever.
This is so absurd. We have to treat it with humor. We have to declare a White House happy hour where everybody just descends on the White House and gets drunk on the front lawn and see how they feel about it when you have uninvited guests that show up and you can't do anything about it. Because if you overwhelm the White House, they can't arrest everybody.
That's a sit-in.
I'll bring the beer.
This administration is behind a lot of this.
Right.
I mean, these are Department of Homeland Security buses busing these immigrants into this town. This poor mayor has mayhem on his hands. Then the administration says, well, they're not dangerous. Well, how do you know? And even if they're not violent criminals, they could be dangerous to the balance sheet of that town. How does that town financially survive with that influx of
they have every right to be upset and to be outraged, and I don't care if they're from that town or not. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're paying taxes, you can show up wherever you want in this country and protest and let your voice be heard. Not to turn a blind or an unkind eye to children that are coming over. Their parents shouldn't be putting them in danger and putting them with these coyotes, and they should be using the money to start a business or do something or support their family instead of like risking their lives, throwing cash at it to these criminals.
Here's the deal. This is not a grassroots opposition in that town. This is artificial turf. This is an astroturf movement by people who are hating on these immigrants. And let me tell you,
they're not hating on them. That's misstating.
The mayor said his concern was, are these kids going to be treated fairly? Are they going to be treated humanely? You're not hearing that from those protesters.
I don't think it's so great for these kids to be here without their parents.
You asked about the bottom line. That's a federal facility. There's federal dollars pouring into that town, benefiting that town, and federal jobs.
Federal dollars from U.S. citizens.
What I'm just saying, you asked about, oh, is this going to be a burden on the town?
You keep saying these poor little kids. If they are coming from these dangerous places, and they're anywhere between 6 and 18, you don't think they're going to be dangerous too when they're spread out?
They're children. They're not drug dealers.
No, without any parents, without people here hoping that they can get their parents here through a loophole.
As an expert, children are often more dangerous than adults.
Is that right?
My gosh.
All right. Greg's got the final word. Up next, the mysterious leader of the ISIS terror group steps out of the shadows in what appears to be new video of his first sermon. Now, in this chilling tape, he calls on Muslims around the world to unite behind an Islamic caliphate in Syria and Iraq. More on that when we return.